On Thursday, September 18th, President Trump shocked the world during a joint press conference in London. He announced that his administration is currently in negotiations with the Taliban to regain Bagram airfield in Afghanistan. Trump claimed one major reason behind this ambition is that Bagram is only an hour away from where China manufactures its nuclear weapons.
We were going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back.
If this deal happens, it would be part of a larger agreement where the US attempts to exploit Afghanistan's dire economic situation to secure its own gains, simultaneously preparing a second military front against China. This intense push to return raises the essential question: why Bagram? This is what we will discuss together in today's episode. I am your host, and this is the Intel Runner Plus. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. To understand the current drive, we must look back to 2021. Former Congressman Michael Waltz, now the US Ambassador to the United Nations and one of Washington's staunchest hawks, expressed profound outrage over President Biden's full withdrawal. Waltz wrote that what truly worried him was the strategic foothold we are giving up in the backyard of America's greatest rivals. That foothold was Bagram Airfield, located about 44 kilometers north of Kabul. Bagram was, without exaggeration, the beating heart of the American occupation for nearly 2 decades. At its height, the largest US military base in Afghanistan hosted nearly 100,000 US troops and tens of thousands of military assets. Trump has made it clear that he will not tolerate a refusal. Posting on his Truth Social account, he threatened Afghanistan that if the base is not returned, very bad things will happen.
But we're talking now to Afghanistan, and we want it back, and we want it back soon, right away. And if they don't do it, you're going to find out what I'm going to do.
Yet, the proposal has found unexpected support. On September 20, the Washington Post, a newspaper that typically leans Democrat and opposed Trump during his first term, published an editorial titled, "A US Return to Bagram Isn't a Bad Idea." The paper argued that a limited and focused US military and diplomatic presence would be useful and very much needed. They agreed that reclaiming the base is not a bad idea, though not at the price of recognizing the Taliban government. Bagram's strategic value stretches back decades. It started as a modest airfield built by the Soviet Union in the 1950s. In the 1980s, during the Soviet invasion, it became the primary launching pad for Soviet forces. Following the Soviet defeat, it was heavily damaged during confrontations between Afghan factions. After the US invasion in 2001, Bagram was transformed into a self-contained American town. Over a decade, it expanded dramatically, handling the heaviest aircraft and culminating in the construction of the infamous Parwan detention facility, which is usually called the Afghanistan Guantanamo. For 2 decades, Bagram served as the spearhead of US military operations in Afghanistan. Another reminder before we move on, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the Intel Runner Plus. It helps us a lot. Trump's interest in Bagram dates back to his November 2019 Thanksgiving visit. However, in February 2020, his administration signed the Doha Agreement with the Taliban, pledging the withdrawal of all American and NATO forces. During his final year in office, Trump pressured the Pentagon to speed up the withdrawal. hoping it would boost his re-election chances. When Acting Secretary of Defense Mark Esper advised keeping 4,500 troops, Trump dismissed him in November 2020. And since it's Trump we're talking about here, Esper obviously lost his job soon after disagreeing with Trump. By early 2021, troop levels were at the lowest point since the invasion, 2,500 troops only. President Biden subsequently followed the path toward full withdrawal later that year. Despite Trump's campaign claims that he would have kept Bagram, the Doha Agreement contained no clause stipulating the retention of Bagram or any other base for that matter. Trump later claimed the base had fallen under control of the Chinese Liberation Army. In February 2025, a Taliban spokesman, Zabihullah Mujahid, directly refuted this, stating that Bagram was under Afghan control, not Chinese, and that no agreement had been signed with China. Zabihullah called the US statement emotional and based on unsubstantiated information. Trump also claimed the US abandoned billions of dollars worth of equipment, including 777,000 rifles and 70,000 trucks. However, John Sopko, the former US Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, noted that retrieving this equipment is pointless, as much of it was destroyed or in poor condition, and the recovery cost would exceed its current value. Today, Trump's administration, reinforced by Mike Waltz's strategic advice, wants Bagram back for several key reasons. One is the proximity to China, whose western border is less than 800 kilometers from Afghanistan. Another is the potential to establish a counter-terrorism hub against the Islamic State group, ISIS. But in my opinion, the real motive is renewed US access to Afghanistan's massive treasure trove of rare minerals and valuable resources, which the US government estimates to be worth about $1 trillion. These resources include gold, lithium, cobalt, copper, zinc, chromite, in addition to precious and semi-precious gemstones like emeralds, rubies, sapphire, granite, and lapis lazuli. Most importantly, rare earth elements, the critical components needed for modern technologies like laptops, smartphones, and electric cars, production of which China currently dominates. Despite spending nearly $1 billion on mining projects during the two-decade occupation, US progress in Afghanistan was minimal and unsustainable, crippled by insecurity and corruption. Yet, the country's vast untapped reserves continue to draw American interest, and Afghanistan isn't the only place on Washington's radar. Trump openly floated the idea of buying Greenland, motivated in part by its rare earth deposits. And in April 2025, the US signed a minerals deal with Ukraine as part of its support in the war against Russia. So, is Bagram really close to China's nuclear weapons manufacturing sites? Dennis Wider, a former CIA specialist, told the Financial Times that the facility Trump referred to is most likely Lopnur, China's famous nuclear test site. However, Wider clarified that China has never manufactured nuclear weapons in Western China. Production facilities are located in central China. Satellite imagery confirms that while the Lopnur test site is active again, the base offers no significant intelligence advantage over the existing satellite and electronic surveillance already used by the US to monitor China's nuclear stockpile. Bagram's true strategic importance, according to analysts like Mike Waltz, is the military necessity of securing an airbase bordering China. Should a war break out over Taiwan, Bagram would be crucial for Washington to open a second front to stretch China's resources, preventing Beijing from concentrating all its assets around Taiwan. Alternatives in neighboring countries like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan are proven very difficult to secure. Another reminder before we move on, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the Interrunner Plus. It helps us a lot. For now, the Taliban completely reject any American military presence, viewing it as a violation of Afghan sovereignty. Ahmed Walid Kakkar, an Afghani analyst based in the UK, told the Anadolu paper that a deal allowing US troops to return would likely threaten the Taliban's legitimacy among Afghans. However, the Taliban face enormous pressure. They are politically isolated, with only Russia offering formal recognition. They face UN sanctions and have nearly $9 billion in Afghan assets frozen abroad. Economically, Afghanistan is in deep crisis. According to a UNDP report, 75% of households lack safe access to basic needs such as food, sanitation, clean water, healthcare, and decent housing. And according to UNICEF, 3.5 million children under the age of 5 suffer from malnutrition. This dire economic situation is the key card Trump and his administration are attempting to play against the Taliban to secure their gains. But currently, the Taliban are firmly rejecting any US military return. The fight for Bagram is complex, driven by strategic military needs, the lure of trillion-dollar mineral reserves, and the geopolitical battle against China. Do you think Trump will succeed where no world leader has before, cutting a deal with the Taliban to take back Bagram Air Base? Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Finally, if you like this episode and want to see us again, subscribe to the Interrunner Plus and see you in the next episode.